another video, a much anticipated video, I might say. I hope everyone is doing well, and I don't think I need to beat around the bush here. Today we are talking about the new Metallica album, or long-awaited album, that I have been making videos on for the past couple of months. Every time they release a new single or something. And I'm also bringing you another video that's live recorded, which is exciting. I was lucky enough to get the CD as a gift recently, so I have something to kind of show you and play around with. So we'll be going through this as well. A little Metallica here, yeah. So this has been the album we've been talking about, like I said. And before we get into the actual album and what I think about it, I mean, you guys already have a general idea. I do want to go into the CD, and I'm sorry if the quality of the camera isn't that great. I'm using my webcam, and for some reason, the colors look really muted right now. I don't know if I accidentally clicked a setting or something, so I'm going to try to fix it in post, but if not, you'll just have to see my stubby, grainy fingers. And if you know what the album art looks like, you can tell that right now the album almost looks like white as opposed to the vibrant yellow, the yellow album as it's called. So this is it. This is the CD. I don't have the vinyl yet, but we can pop it out. We slide it out of its case. Just like that. And then we see Papa Hetfield right here. 72 seasons. It's pretty alright. It's pretty cool. So we open it up just like this. And then you get Lars. Then you get Kirk. Then you get Rob. And then you get the packet here, so we can look through this real quick. Alright. So, this just has all the artwork, and it gives some of the lyrics, or all the lyrics I should say. It's pretty neat. I might use this as a guide to when I'm talking about my favorite songs, least favorite songs. So, we got on the back here that, excuse me, we actually have the writing credits, and not all the writing credits are to Hetfield and Ulrich. We also have some that have Kirk on them and some that actually have Rob. You get some writing credits on this album, which is exciting. So, there's that. But this is the meat and potatoes here. I mean, I'm going to be honest. It's a cool way to open an album, a new CD, but at the same time, it's kind of annoying to get the disc out. So, here we have it. We have the entire track list here. All of the songs, how long they are, what their names are. It's a really nice, sleek CD. I like that it's just the yellow and the black. The yellow for Metallica is kind of, it's growing on me a little bit because it's so different from every other album cover that they've had. And I guess that's kind of a way to jump into the album review. So let me just close this back up properly. I'll keep this out. Let's see if I can get this in here for a shot. I can. Alright. So we'll leave this. I'm not used to trying to work with my hands while I'm also talking. I'm usually just like staring off into space while I'm talking, so I'm trying to look at the camera and my hands and make sure that everything's in the center of the screen. It's actually kind of difficult, but I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee real quick. So, the new Metallica album, 72 Seasons. We just went through the CD. Now what do I think about it? I think the yellow represents this album very well, because I've heard a lot of people saying that it sounds a lot like Hardwired to Self-Destruct, which production-wise is true. A lot of people were making jokes saying it could have been called Rewired, like load and reload, instead of Hardwired and Rewired. But I don't think everyone's entirely correct. I think it does sound like Hardwired production-wise, for sure. But I think the songs are... I don't know how to describe it. I think the songs are unique to this album. I don't think there's a lot of songs that sound similar to other songs. Are some of the riffs a little rehashed? Yeah, but I mean more in the way that the songs are put together. How groovy the riffs are, how melodic the choruses are. And this isn't to say that Metallica hasn't had groovy or jeez, I can't speak today. Holy cow. That isn't to say that Metallica hasn't had groovy or catchy, poppy choruses before. But I think those aspects of the song process in this album are blown up. I think that you get a really unique sounding Metallica record. It's not a record that takes risks, for sure. You're not going to find anything groundbreaking in this record, but you are going to find some really enjoyable songs. And you're going to find a story talking about going through the first 18 years of your life. And I really like that concept. As a young person, I can empathize with that theme a lot more than maybe some other people could. But I think there's a lot of uniqueness in this album, despite people saying it sounds the same, or all the songs sound the same, and it sounds the exact same as Hardwired. But that being said, if you see me get up like that, it's because my chair has been having this issue where it just like slowly sags. So I have to keep like bringing myself back up. So I believe there's a lot of unique qualities about 72 Seasons, and I think it shows an aged Metallica, and I think it shows a Metallica that's comfortable where they are. They're not taking risks, and they don't have to, right? They're not trying to break down any new walls. Some people can describe that as not caring, but I describe that as a band that's got nothing left to prove. They are metal. Metallica is metal, right? So they are just making the music that they want to make, and I can appreciate it about this album. The riffs are groovy. There's a lot of bass. This is the best the bass has sounded from a Metallica album in years, if not decades, right? We've known that ever since the death of Cliff Burton, that Metallica's bass has not been their strongest attribute, but Rob really, really shines in this album. So I would say it's more groovy than any other Metallica album. They've got a lot of unique, I don't want to say poppy, but melodic choruses. They even have that weird Alice in Chains bridge in You Must Burn, right? So they are trying some new things. Anyway, I guess that's my overall thoughts on the album, but if we break it down song by song, here, we've got 72 Seasons. So, 72 Seasons wasn't my favorite track. something where that Metallica has done wrong is that whenever they make a song that speeds up a little bit, when they try to get back to their thrashy roots, it comes off as sounding a little generic, a little corny, and that's a complaint that a lot of people have had about this album, is that it's generic, right? And we also got to be honest, Hetfield's lyricism has not kept up into the modern age. His lyrics have been subpar on the past couple of albums, I think. And this album is, or this song is no exception. It's kind of hard to understand what he's talking about, and he just kind of repeats the same thing over and over and over again. That being said, I do think it's a good song. I do think it kicks ass a little bit. Not as much as something from like Hardwired, but it was a good opening to the album, I think. It's nothing crazy. It's a little generic, but I would rather have generic Metallica than an outstanding song from another band, because even generic Metallica still kicks ass. You know what I mean? So, Shadows Follow is a personal favorite of mine from this album. It kind of blows my mind that Shadows Follow wasn't a single, but I really like the chorus on this song, and even though that the lyrics are kind of word salad or diarrhea of the mouth in a way, where he's kind of just rhyming, like demonized, liquefied, tranquilized, night and day, led astray in decay. I like the way that he delivers the lines. The cadence of the song is really cool. I think the riff of the song is really cool, especially on the outro. I think the riff is really awesome. We've already talked about Screaming Suicide, so I don't think I need to elaborate on this one too much. But I will say that this song has grown on me a lot ever since I made that original video. That's why it took a couple of days to actually listen to the album a few times and sit with it, because if I had recorded this the second it came out, I would have came on here and said, oh my god, this is the best album since the Black Album, because we all have those new album jitters, right? But after you sit with it for a while, you can kind of rationalize your thoughts. So anyway, this song has grown on me a lot. I really like the riff. I really don't like the spoken word section, and I think the song goes on for too long. But it's still an alright song. Sleepwalk My Life Away is another personal favorite of mine from the album. I don't have too much to say about it. The riff kind of sounds like Enter Sandman a little bit. You gotta be kind of reaching, but it's another example of those rehashed riffs that people were complaining about. I really like the chorus on this one, and yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about it. You Must Burn. This one is really interesting, I think. This kind of falls into one of those longer Metallica songs. Kind of slow, a little longer, a little drawn out, but on purpose. It doesn't feel like, to me, it doesn't feel like one of the songs that's drawn out like 72 seasons. Like that song was 7 minutes for no reason. Or when we talk about If Darkness Had a Sun. Kind of reminds me of something like the Outlaw Torn in a way, but if you mixed it with Sad But True, it's got a kind of a unique sound. And also, this is the song that has that weird, like, Alice in Chains bridge behind it, which is really interesting. I've never heard Metallica do something like that. I also do like the lyrics, however, there's one spot right here that it just... James Hetfield cannot help himself from creating a word salad. Choke on the smoke of the funeral pyre. And then he just says backfire at the end. It's like, we don't need the backfire. You didn't need to put that in there. You didn't need to say it's a personal favorite on the album, but I would say that it's very unique. So, we'll move on. Luxy-Turna, by far the best song on the album, and by far my favorite song on the album. And this was the first single they released, and I gotta say, it was kind of like a tease, because Luxy-Turna sounds like Metallica being old Metallica, the Metallica that people have wanted to hear for a long, long time. But the rest of the album does not sound like this song. Luxy-Turna is fast, it's loud, it's in your face. The solo is great. I think a lot of people didn't like it. I liked the solo a lot. And it really screamed young Metallica and early heavy metal. And this was done on purpose, right? Because this song is about discovering heavy metal for the first time as a teenager and realizing that you're not alone and all these people can connect through this common thing, eternal light. This is giving eternal light, right? So, the thing that makes this song awesome is that it sounds like classic Metallica. It's fast, it's rude, it's in your face, and it's short. Now I understand that Metallica is known for its long songs, but I tell you what, this is going to be the biggest critique of the album, and what a lot of people are critiquing about the album is that the album is too long. The songs are too long, and they're not long for a reason. Like, they're just drawn out. It takes James Hetfield almost 2 minutes to say his first lyric in 72 Seasons, the opening track. If Darkness Had a Sun, we all know that song is way too drawn out. The album is extremely bloated, and it could have been cut down. And I have got to be honest, if the speed was kicked up a little bit and the songs were a little bit shorter, this album would have probably been their best album since the 90s. I mean, it probably still is, in my opinion, but people would have been praising this album if they cut the songs shorter and made them a little faster, if they kicked up the tempo a little bit. And that's what they did in Luxy-Turna, and everybody went crazy for Luxy-Turna when the album came out, or when the single came out. Unfortunately, they did not follow through on their promise of making the album sound like this. They kind of teased us. But anyway, and that's why Luxy-Turna is my favorite song, and I was really hoping that the rest of the album was going to sound like this. Then we got Crown of Barbed Wire. This one's okay. I don't have too much to say about Crown of Barbed Wire. It's okay. I don't know. It's okay. That's a song I could skip. Chasing Light is I think is a really good one. I think James's voice shines in the chorus on here when he his voice is a lot softer than it used to be, right? Because he's almost 60 years old. He can't really scream like he did in the 90s. He's not tearing down, or 80s and 90s I should say, he's not tearing down dressing rooms anymore. He's not drinking heavily. He's not that old. He's not that young, rambunctious guy anymore. And that reflects in his voice too, and that's completely understandable. However, I think that in Chasing Light on the choruses here, when he screams that lean on me part, when he gets really high and gets really raspy, I love it. I think that's modern James Hetfield trying to channel something younger in himself. And when he says, without darkness, there's no light, it sounds so good. I really enjoy the chorus on this song. I also, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe that this is the riff that kind of sounds like No Remorse. And while I don't support them rehashing their riffs, you can't really go wrong with a rehashed No Remorse. That song is kick-ass. If Darkness Had a Sun, easily the worst song on the album. Too long. The lyrics are trash. It's boring. The only redeeming part about If Darkness Had a Son is that when, at the last part right here, when James is singing the Here I Am part, and he hits that really high note, I think his voice sounds fucking incredible. Other than that, it's okay. I wouldn't throw myself out of a car if it came on the radio, but it they could do better. I like Too Far Gone a lot. I think when we're talking about the uniqueness of some of the songs in this album, I think Too Far Gone is really a good example of that. Just with the delivery of the lyrics, with James going like every time he starts a new line. I also really like the lyrics. I am desperation, needed so bad today. I am isolation, static, and disarray. It's less word salady than the rest of the album, and also I really like the chorus. I think it sounds really nice. It's just nice to listen to. Some people have called it annoying. I disagree. I like this one. Although I don't really have too much to say about it. Room of Mirrors, I don't really have much to say about, to be honest. It might be because I haven't spent enough time with it, but yeah, I don't know. This is another one, but that didn't really stick out to me. Alright, so now the song that everyone has been talking about, Innamorata. So, this is another example of those really long, drawn-out songs from, I don't mean to say drawn-out, really long songs, kind of slower songs from Metallica. Like I've kind of mentioned with You Must Burn earlier, like with Fixer, The Outlaw Torn, Bleeding Me, these longer, half-ballad-esque songs that that are slower and I guess more groovy. I don't know how to describe it, but you know what I'm saying if you listen to this album. And what's really interesting is that this is supposed to be, from my understanding, it's supposed to be either a sequel or a prequel to My Friend Misery from the Black Album. And obviously that's really evident when we get around here, when we get to the guitar section that sounds like it's just from My Friend Misery, and he keeps saying misery, my misery, but I think that this is a really good song. I think 11 minutes is 11 minutes spent well. It doesn't feel, to me, it doesn't feel as drawn out as some of the other songs, despite it being 11 minutes, and that just goes to show that it's not about it just making the song long. You have to make the song interesting. And for the most part, I think this song is pretty interesting. I think they did a good job with this one, and I'm really happy with it. I'm happy with the callback to the Black Album. I'm happy with the callback to a not so popular song. My Friend Misery isn't the first Metallica song that everybody thinks of when they think of the Black Album, right? But I had a thought lined up about this. Oh, I was gonna say I'm glad it's not the Unforgiven 4 or anything, right? Because I think we're all sick of the Unforgiven. I think we get the point. There did not need to be 3 Unforgivens, but that kind of closes us out with the album. So, my overall thoughts on the album, we'll say. This is a hard one because I think there are a lot of really good qualities about this album, but I also think that a lot of the downsides of the album really hinder it. Something I forgot to mention is that Kirk Hammett was on drugs when he was recording these solos. Like, most of these solos are very hard to listen to. I think a lot of them are. I think the worst one is on If Darkness Had a Sun. I think Kirk is just out of ideas, and I think they're all out of ideas for writing solos. Not that I think they should get rid of them, but they're writing solos the same way they've been writing solos for the past 40 years. And I think something that could have been really interesting about this album is if Kirk changed the way that he recorded his solos, or if he tweaked them a little bit. Like, we all love Kirk Hammett and his wah pedal. It's undisputed. He is the wah pedal king. However, he uses the same scale throughout the entire album. He changes keys every once in a while, but that just kind of sounds awkward. And it doesn't seem like there's any flow to anything he's doing. It's a smorgasbord of just speed, I guess, and just tapping. I don't know. It's just bad. That's the only way I can describe it. It's just bad. For the most part, Kirk Hammett is easily the weakest part of this album. And if there had been another lead guitar player, this album could have been a lot better, in my opinion. The album is also extremely bloated. The songs are too long for the most part. The riffs carry on for too long. They repeat too much. Sometimes they repeat a chorus, or sometimes they have a bridge in there that doesn't fit, like in 72 Seasons. When he says fading in the black light, that doesn't need to be there. If Darkness Had a Sun is way too long. So, if I had two complaints, or my two main complaints are the guitar solos and that the album is bloated. However, I do think there's a lot of uniqueness within this album, and despite what people are saying, obviously there's not a lot of risk in this album, but I do still think there are some new elements that we did not see in Hardwired, and I also think that this is Metallica kind of letting go of their older self. James wasn't trying to be a heavy metal hardcore legend in this album. It feels like Metallica and James are more coming into their older age and what their abilities are and what kind of music they want to make. Because if you ask me, on Hardwired to Self-Destruct, there are a lot of corny songs and corny elements in that album that kind of made it hard to listen to at times. For example, the lyrics of Hardwired to the self-titled track Hardwired were a little corny, and it seemed like he was trying too hard. I don't feel like they're trying too hard in this album. I think this is a representation of themselves and who they are now and where they're going in the future. Maybe that's why they chose the first 18 years of their life as a theme, almost like a rebirth in a way. But at the end of the day, Metallica has nothing to prove. They've proven all they have to do. And I guess if I was to summarize my thoughts on this album, I would say it's good. I would probably give it a 7.5 out of 10, would it be my rating. Maybe if I'm really feeling the riffs, it'd be an 8. So 7.5 to an 8, I would give this album. I like it better than Hardwired. I think Death Magnetic might be better than this album. I'm not sure. I'd have to really think about it. But either way, we're so lucky that we're still getting music out of these guys. We're so lucky that James Hetfield and Lars and Kirk and Rob are still at it making music, because it doesn't matter if I give this album a 4 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. It's 2023 and we got a new Metallica album and it's good. So I consider myself very, very lucky, and you should too if you're a fan. Anyways, guys, I've rambled for about 30 minutes here, so I'm gonna sign off. How did you feel about the album? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Let me know. Let's have a discussion in the comments. Please like, please subscribe. It helps out a lot. You guys have been awesome with subscribing lately. And I will catch you guys in my next video. Have a good one.